Hello, welcome to our virtual back to school night for the year of 2021-2022. My name is Zeke Lyons. I am your son or daughter's seventh grade science teacher. Thank you for coming to our virtual back to school night. Wish you could be here. It's always great to be able to meet parents and be able to answer questions. And obviously this format doesn't allow for that to happen. I'm going to attempt to sort of preemptively answer any of the questions that I can anticipate. But of course, I'll never be able to do that perfectly. And so if you do have any questions, I will have my email included in this video. And so please feel free to reach out to me through my email. So the first thing that I just want to cover very, very briefly is you should have seen this because I received the syllabus back from most of my students and it had your signature on it. So hopefully it was your signature. But I do want to just talk very briefly about grades within the science department and in my class. We do grade through a weighted category system. It's not just strictly points. All that really means is that just because they earn another point in the grade book does not necessarily mean that their grade will go up, because it has to do with what percentage of the points they have within each of these four categories. And so if they already have a high percentage of points within, let's say, assessments, and they do well on another assessment, that doesn't necessarily mean that their grade will go up. So just be aware of that. And if that doesn't make any sense to you, feel free to reach out and I can be a little bit more in depth with an explanation. Grading policies, I do accept late work. They are allowed to turn in late work up to 1 week past the end of our scope. Scopes for us in science are just what we call our chapters. So once the scope is over, they will have up to 1 week to turn in any missing work from that scope. But that is a hard deadline. I do not allow work past that. That's to hold students accountable. And it's also to make sure that the last week of the semester, I don't have 120 students trying to send me late work to boost their grade. So I also allow students to retake tests and quizzes. That also is up to 70%. And so students who are essentially willing to give effort and do the work have multiple opportunities to not only pass, but pass with a high grade in my class. Regarding attendancy, obviously, if they can't be present, it's hard to earn participation points. And so obviously, when there are emergencies and illnesses and things like that, participation gets exempted. But for unexcused absences and things like that, that does hurt your participation. When absences are excused, students receive up to double the amount of time to turn in work. So if a student is absent for, let's say, 3 days, they will have 6 school days to finish any missing work that they have in my class. This is a PowerPoint that was made by the school to just talk about some of the things that are happening on campus to make sure that we're keeping everybody on campus safe. I'm not going to go through this, word by word, but what I do want to talk about is just how incredible our janitorial staff is. I know from personal experience, from being in my classroom until 8, 9, unfortunately, sometimes 10 o'clock, that there are still janitors here on campus disinfecting things and just making sure that we are as safe as possible. And then, as always with COVID and sort of this stuff is that updates are almost constant. There's been times where things have changed multiple times within 24 hours. So just be aware of that and be prepared for things to change. This is the bell schedule for this school year. Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays are our normal days. And most periods are 55 minutes long. We start at 7:40. The second period is a few minutes longer because that's when announcements happen on campus. Excuse me. Wednesdays and Thursdays, school starts 10 minutes later at 7:50, and class periods are an hour and 51 minutes long. And so this is typically when we do our labs and the activities that take a little bit more time. And so that way we have a little bit of more time to go in depth with some of the stuff. Wednesdays are our even periods, so that's 2, 4, and 6. And then Thursdays are odd, so that's 1, 3, and 7. This is our Google Classroom. Our Google Classroom is where I post all of our assignments. The vast majority of our assignments are digital. I do not give homework, or at least not additional work as homework. Assignments that are not completed in class, the expectation is that those things would be completed at home. But I do not give any additional work as homework. I prefer to do it digitally for a lot of reasons. Number one, we live in a very digital world, but also it tends to help with organization, myself included. It also has the added benefit of removing the "my dog ate my homework" excuse and things of that nature. So it's very easy to keep track of things. Things stay much more organized this way. And so I prefer to keep things as digital as possible. Students who do not have access to technology at home, and if they're not keeping up with the classwork in class, then we do have an amazing SOAR team that operates out of both the Thunder and also the main office. SOAR is an organization on campus that does a phenomenal job of having an outreach to all of our students. So if students don't have technology at home for whatever reason, students can go to SOAR and there's laptops in there, and then they can print most of the time at no cost. And when there is cost, it's extremely low. So if students do need hard copies, that is where they can get it. But obviously, anytime there are hard copies in class, I provide them for them. This is our Bitmoji Classroom. This will be posted on Google Classroom. This is just the easiest way for students to access some of the links that are important to them. This is their student link for their grades through the Q portal. And then this is the parent link as well. And so if you want to have access to Parent Connect, there is a link right here. This is for Clever, Google Classroom, and the CUSD website. And then very briefly, I do just want to talk about the two main assignments that are recurring throughout the year. This is our IP journal. IP stands for Investigative Phenomena. So in my class, investigation, obviously, in science is extremely important. And so they are asked and expected to be able to ask questions, make observations, and then from those observations, create claims, gather evidence, and then provide scientific reasoning. And so this is where we do that. We do that for every single driving question and every essential question that we have. We have one essential question per scope, and we tend to have anywhere between 3 and 5 driving questions per scope. And then lastly, we have vocab assignments. And as you can see here through the IP and vocab, there's lots of writing in my class. And so that is just something to be aware of. But obviously, we also utilize visual aids and things of that nature as well. I hope that was informative and helpful. If you have any questions, my email is zekeLyons@clovisusd.k12.ca.us. Feel free to email me, again, with any questions pertaining to this video or otherwise. And I hope that you have a great rest of your night. Go Thunderbirds.